How's everyone doing? Happy 4th of July to all of my American friends. Glad you could make it. Wasn't sure if doing a stream on 4th of July was a good idea. Here we are. Okay, let me know if the music's too loud. Chat's busy already, I see. Good. All right, fun model to draw today. I really like the rhythm of this first pose. I think hopefully it'll be a fun one. All right, just quick chat check. I really should have had a Thanksgiving or 4th of July, sorry, theme, but here we are. Not a great day to be a turkey, right? Okay. Music's too loud. Hopefully that's been resolved. I'm going to assume it's okay now. Cool. All right, let's draw. I think probably we'll go for like the usual, probably a 15-ish on this one. Shall we say? Let's go for it, see what happens. This leg coming out like so. You've been partying, have you, already? What time of day is it? It's far too early to be partying now. Come on, even for 4th of July. I don't know. Any excuse. I'm sure we will do a little mini celebration here. After all my children are Americans, so you know, have to give it a nod. Nice, we got, did we start early? No, Rick. Maybe we did start, I don't know, did I come online maybe a minute early? There is always a chance. I think it's because I opened the chat and I saw it was all happening, so I just, you know, didn't want to get left out. What was that? Clumsy drawing. Okay. This pencil is not really working for me. Let's switch it up. Oh, so much better. You know, okay, so this music reminds me of the Vince Guaraldi trio, and especially my American friends will know most likely who the Vince Guaraldi trio was. They did the soundtrack for the Snoopy, I think like Christmas special and that type of thing, and it's very much this feels very inspired by the Vince Guaraldi trio. In saying that, I'm turning it off because I'm not going to play that track right now, just because it's too slow. But yeah, there you go. Snoopy's a funny one, isn't it? You don't like. Okay, I think we talked about Snoopy about a year ago. You don't hear people talking about Snoopy these days, but apparently Snoopy is huge in Japan, right? That's what I think that's the knowledge that got dropped on me the last time I mentioned Snoopy. I probably mentioned Snoopy because of that track, in fairness. I don't feel like Snoopy's aged well. You know, another thing that I don't think has aged well, and yet in spite of that, they continue to make movies, is Garfield. There's a new Garfield film out, and look, I've got friends that worked on it, and it's certainly no disrespect to anyone of them and their contributions to the film, but it's like, really? We're still doing Garfield? 2024? It feels like one of those things where we're just kind of like throwing our hands up in the air and admitting that we're completely out of original ideas. It's just me? Vince Guaraldi was my late wife's favorite Christmas soundtrack. We had it on for weeks. Yeah, look, it's synonymous with Christmas, right? I get it, and nothing will conjure the Christmas vibe like the Vince Guaraldi trio. Look, it's pleasant, right? Like, it's very unoffensive music. Tad bland for my taste, but to each their own. I've been guilty of putting it on at Christmas. It's been a while, but I've been known to do it. I kind of love Garfield. Margot, fair enough. Look, nothing wrong with Garfield, but I just feel like it's like, really? Garfield? Like this, you know, like, I don't know, I'm digging myself a hole here. I'm going to completely alienate everyone that comes to the stream. Maybe I should shut up and draw. Anyway, hopefully you get the spirit of what I'm saying. I guess what is kind of surprising to me is the way that something like Garfield is still around to some degree or another. I just don't quite get it. You know, if we're going to bring back comics from that era, let's bring back something like Calvin and Hobbes. That I could get behind. I've got a feeling that will never happen. Bill Watterson's got far too many scruples to be mining that particular well. Would we consider this model long in the torso, asks Rick, or is it just this photo? It's a good question. I think the pose, like, you know, she's pretty lean. She's on the longer side in the torso, let's put it that way. But here's the thing. Her legs, I think, are the proportionate length to her torso, so I get the spirit of what you're saying about her being long in the torso, but I also think that it's something else somehow, if that makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Crazy Frog dropped a track a year or so ago, having dropped. I have no idea who Crazy Frog is. Lulu, is this one of your anime things? The internet did a number on Garfield. I think that it's a self-inflicted wound. Garfield is a little too Trumpish for me. That's interesting observation, Rick. I had never thought of it like that. Yeah. Okay. I could kind of see that as an idea. Yeah. Never thought of it that way. But okay. Yeah. All right. What's next? A Nancy and Sluggo movie. All right, I'm so out of my depth here. I'm going to assume, well, maybe you can enlighten me. I have literally never even heard of Nancy and Sluggo. I'm guessing it's a comic strip? All right, Doug. You gotta explain yourself. I would appreciate a Half-Life 3, honestly, even though the original game was overused. Okay, it's a game. I've never heard of it. Half-Life? Okay. The brutal OG Ninja Turtles with all the gore would also be good to bring back. You know, I worked on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series back in the 80s. It's one of my first jobs in animation. I only worked on it for about 3 months. I was still very new to the whole thing, and I couldn't hack the schedule. It's an interesting thing. So I went to work on that in Dublin and Ireland. So I think I've mentioned it before. It's where I met my wife, and it was that show that I went to work on. And the Murakami Wolf, the studio that made it, it was kind of like one of the first animation outsource studios. but they had ridiculous quotas as far as what they expected you to do on, you know, the drawing count, as we would call it, from week to week. I think I hacked it for about 3 months, and then I left. I went back to England very briefly, and then I moved to LA. So, yeah. So there you go. But I haven't seen any of the Ninja Turtle stuff since. I believe there was just a film that came out. I know that. And by all accounts, people said it was decent. Wouldn't really be my cup of tea now, to be honest. Right, so we're kind of at our 15. I'm just going to throw a little bit of, just a splash of tone on this, and then I'm going to move on, because this is really a warm-up. I'm not thrilled with the drawing, so let's not invest too much time here. The Twin Cities is blasphemy to trash peanuts. Charles Schultz, St. Paul. All right, well there you go. Look, not trashing peanuts. Strange little world he created, though, isn't it? Like, if you think about it, like, really, you know, interesting, like, little set of characters that he came up with there. Yeah. The yellow bird. What was its name? I forget. All right, so Kwan is asking the real questions, getting away from all this monkey business. How to improve my anatomy drawing. You know, I've answered this question many times, as you can imagine. So at the risk of just giving the same answer over and over and over again, I think honestly, the reality is with anatomy is the first thing I would ask yourself is, what is it that you want to do? Because depending on where you want, what kind of art you want to create would dictate the degree to which you need to know anatomy, in my opinion, and how then you might approach it. So there's not an easy answer. The one thing I would say, how do you improve your anatomy drawing? Just very simply, if I'm going to give you a very simple answer, is by doing. Draw anatomy studies from anatomy books. Draw the figure with an anatomy book beside you when you're not sure about something that you're looking at. Open the anatomy book, take a look, and slowly build your vocabulary of anatomical understanding. I wouldn't worry about knowing all the names of all the muscles. Know the large ones, it's useful. But don't beat yourself up about it. It will come with time. I do believe that. I'm a strong believer in that. It's learn the basics with anatomy and then let it happen through osmosis as you develop. All right. Yeah, this is rather an anemic drawing. Let's move on. The Snoopy dance. God, I remember there was a Snoopy dance, wasn't there? Rick, that I agree with Margot. This is something you need to show the world. All right, next pose. You know I'm a sucker for a good back pose, and I'm hoping that this one's going to deliver. So let's give it a go. I'm just reading your comment, really, that's funny. I'm glad it was all it could be for you. Be careful of her on her left leg. Don't want the YouTube police crashing down the door. Yeah, I think we were okay there. Okay. Nancy and Sluggo was a comic strip from the 20s. Well, maybe that's why I have not heard of it. Who was your favorite turtle, or is it a ninja? I know I know their names. I couldn't even tell you anything about them. I never watched the show. I've never seen a full episode of Ninja Turtles. I do not have a favorite. I don't know anything about them, really. Hopefully Come on, you've asked the same question again about your anatomy drawing. What is the pros of drawing from life? Post Love says, I just joined. Did we get to see the reference? Yeah, if you go to the community chat page on the YouTube channel, you'll see a link. Might be a couple down, but you'll see a link for the month of June. But click on that link because July is connected to it, because there didn't seem much point in creating a new page for July, given that June doesn't have too many posts on it. And with this going to once a week business, I'm starting the clock here. It does also mean that, yeah, I'll probably only be renewing the reference page once every couple of months or every 3 months, we'll see. Actually, let's pull this over a little bit. Let's find her back, her spine. Large rhythmical idea, it's about there. Yeah, Kwan, basically, look, in my opinion, the reason I think figure drawing is so important, regardless of what type of drawing you ultimately want to do, because the human form is something that we all have. So it's a great platform to practice and develop the skills of drawing, because basically you can't get away with anything. You're going to know when something's off. You might not know how or why, but your spidey sense will tell you. If you try and develop the art of drawing through practicing drawing cars or something, is the car drawn correctly or not? Well, who knows? Unless you're a real car aficionado. But the human form, something we all have an intuitive sense of whether it's right or not. It's hardwired into us. got Penny down here chewing away on a bone. That's, if you can hear some sound in the background, that's very likely what it is. And she's just doing her thing. The bird is Woodstock. That's right. That's right. Right. Woodstock. Find the ASIS and connect everything to it. Yes, unfortunately, Mario, we can't see the ASIS in this back view, but what we can see is the back view's version of the ASIS, which is the sacrum and the sacral dimples. And in my opinion, they serve the same function from the back as the ASIS does from the front. Essentially, all roads lead to the sacrum. So I use the sacrum in the same way I use the ASIS from the front, if that makes sense. Michelangelo, I don't know, you know, honestly. Well, you've got Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo. Who's the fourth one? God, what's the name of the fourth turtle? All right, I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's the $800,000 question. Gotta name all four turtles. Who's the fourth one? Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael. I don't know. I'll take the 250,000 and walk away. Thanks for having me. I'll phone a friend. I didn't leave enough room for the foot. Damn it. And now you're going to have a bunch of you telling me who the fourth turtle was. Thanks again, Margot, for pointing out if people are on a tablet, click and see perks to find the community link. I keep forgetting to write this down. You know what? Sorry. I need to make a note to myself I want to copy and paste what you wrote there, because I keep forgetting, because obviously it's not something I have to do. Okay. Sorry, guys. Janet, did you create any of the characters in DreamWorks Joseph, King of Dreams? No, you know, the thing is, oh, sorry, it's not Janet, Yannicka, right? Apologies. Yannicka, no, I actually, I'm trying to think, I know this sounds like a really strange thing to say, but I don't honestly remember if I worked on King of Dreams. I feel like I did for a minute. I worked on Prince of Egypt quite extensively, and I feel like I worked on King of Dreams or one of the spin-offs that came later, but I don't for the life of me remember which one. And if they only did one after Prince of Egypt, it was that one. I didn't create any of the characters, I drew on the films. Characters that other people had designed. Then you have to kind of do all the drawings of them, you know. Ari, I'm not sure if my comments show up. Ari, that answers your question. If I haven't read your comment, it's because there's a lot of comments. I can't read all of them. I'm trying. I'm pretty new. I absolutely love this. You're just brilliant. Ah, thank you. There's a comment worth reading. Feeling inspired, been blocked for ages. What is the brand of charcoal you use? Or can any veterans tell me? Well, I'm using these General's Charcoal 6B right now. They also have, what are they called? Primo? Those are decent. Go for the 3Bs apparently. I found go for the HBs, or the Bs. The 3Bs were ridiculously soft. I like soft charcoal pencils. That's pretty much, I usually go with the softest I can find. For the most part. But anyone that's been in the stream for a minute will tell you of my ongoing issues with pencils and the challenges attached. Anyway. All right, let's move up the form here. I would not generally advise that you do what I'm doing here, which is spending far too long on the lower part without having resolved anything going on up here. But now's time. Let's find the rib cage. The rib cage is going to be about here. And then the oblique and all of that business. Scapula's sitting there. Trapezius coming out. Occipital ridge is about here. No one's told me the name of the fourth turtle yet, or I haven't read it. I need to find out. Ah, Hemant, you're in the chat. Good man. Been a while. When shading a realistic figure drawing, should I begin shading with halftones or with the darker tones? I've been struggling to make my figure drawings look more realistic. Okay, Kuan, I'm going to show you on this drawing my process for that exact thing. So if you want to know the answer to that question, stick around and you will see. There you go. That's how you do it, right? You tell them what's coming up. I will do a light and tonal pass on this drawing. Look, there's, like anything with art, there's a bunch of different ways that you can approach it, but I do think what's really important is getting down the large relationships between what is in light and what is in shadow. We start there. I'll show you now. Hold on. Before I get to that though, I just want to start to tie things down a little bit. I think I'm at a good point to start doing that. We've got this other arm though coming across. This is just sitting in here. She has top tier dimples. Yeah, look, sacral dimples on this model are very clear. The sacral triangle, the sacrum itself is very clear. And you can even, the gluteus medius, the region of it sitting in here, for example, right? Sitting in that there. Very, very clear because we go from being in tone into light there. So really, really great, very descriptive of what it is that we're trying to do. Okay, let me, with all of that said, I'm going to start right here. Hit the oblique. Hit the rib cage. Coming up, the scapula's going to be sitting in there, something like that. Okay. Coming around. Gluteus medius, probably a little bit of tensor fascia latae in this region too. Now when I'm doing this line, I'm committing to it because things are a little bit vague over here. I'm using this sacral dimple, the one on her left side, as a measuring stick, bringing me around the form there, right? And I'm looking at this distance between here and here to kind of give me my point of commitment, we'll say. Her lower back muscles flow into the hips, so satisfying. Yeah, absolutely. No, great piece of reference we have here, you know. And when we get to light and tone, you know, just for those who don't see or are newer to this stream or my process, what we're doing right now is what we call the diagrammatical drawing. What does diagrammatical mean? Diagrammatical is basically we're building up volume and form with line as opposed to tone. I'm letting line describe the edge of the volume and the form and its relationship to each other. Then we can go in with a tonal pass where we can use light to help further describe that form. But this is the diagrammatical stage, right? So we're just using line to describe form. In my process, every drawing starts as a diagrammatical drawing. So every tonal drawing starts as a diagrammatical drawing. Not everyone works that way. You'll get people like Henry Yan, for example, who you'll see go straight into tone. And he forgoes the diagrammatical stage to a very large degree, at least from what I can take from it. That works for him. That's never been a process that's really worked for me. Don't know if it's the model, the pose, or the lighting, but I seem to see everything here. Yeah, look, I think good lighting, a good pose, and then a good model will, yeah, that will get us where we need to go, right? Or it can certainly help. I agree. Like, you know, there are some, you know, it's a, we've been drawing another model recently, you may recall. She has a similar kind of effect where the light just hits her in a way that it just, the form is so very beautifully described, you know. Leonardo, did I not say, I didn't say Leonardo, did I? I said Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo. You're right, Leonardo, of course, Leonardo. and I missed out on the $500,000. Leonardo, everyone's saying Leonardo. Yeah. I'm way behind. Sorry on the chat. Along with Ben-Hur, The Prince of Egypt is one of the movies I have a tradition to watch on Easter. Oh, very nice. Great. I haven't seen Prince of Egypt since I worked on it. I should probably give it a watch at some point. Ah, oh, look at that. That just literally didn't get a single line out of that pencil. Have you tried Conte? Yeah, I don't like the Conte pencils, Mario. I find them very scratchy. I have a bunch of them here, and yeah, not into them. I know some people swear by them. I've got 5 boxes of these Generals, which are very much like the Conte. They're very scratchy. They have that scratchy feel, and to me, that I've got 5 boxes of unusable pencils. Anyway, all right, let's keep going here. So I think I actually need to drop this down just a little bit. This brachioradialis. So we'll be getting to the light and tone stage in just a moment. That was another thing I should mention. Sorry, who was asking about light and tone again? I've forgotten. "3B graphite." Yeah, I don't use graphite. Even bro from Twitch chimed in with the, yeah, I know, right? You know you're frustrating people when Twitch start piping up, which obviously Twitch are very welcome, don't get me wrong, but we don't have many Twitch people make an appearance on the stream here. It's always nice when we get a little Twitch icon come up. You know, okay, get this, guys. Pretty shocking, in my opinion, at least, with Twitch, because I always was led to believe that Twitch was far more tolerant of what I'm doing, for example, this type of drawing and that, than YouTube. And after the last stream, I got a warning from Twitch that basically my stuff had been flagged as inappropriate, and it was basically you know, if you keep doing this, you're going to shut down your Twitch. We're going to shut down your Twitch channel. And I was kind of shocked. Like, I thought Twitch was way more relaxed with this stuff. So anyway, there you go. That was a nice little thing I had waiting to greet me after the last stream. It's always nice to finish a stream and, you know, open the email from YouTube to tell you that they're upset with you. And now it was Twitch's turn. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about it. I feel like I talk about that stuff too much. Okay, who was it that was asking about light and tone? All right. sorry, I'm just going down quickly. I really messed up this, you know, I tell people not to abandon their drawings. I can't just leave this like this. Even if we can't see much of it, I still need to suggest there's a foot here. We really can't see much of it, but anyway. Okay, let's get down to some light and tone. So, the most important thing for me Richard hates graphite and cats. I don't mind graphite, I just don't use it that often because it's too shiny on the screen. And we'll leave that there. I thought Twitch would be Richard's fallback. Yeah, no kidding, Rick. You both, man. Especially after what happened like, what was it, a week ago? I was ready to... it's been a while. I'm currently drawing an eagle as you draw. All right, well, I'm guessing happy 4th of July. Okay. The trick with light and tone is make a simple division. What is in light and what is in shadow? And one of the ways that we can start that process is just finding what is essentially a core shadow, right? Coming through here. This is in shadow, this is in light, for example. You want to keep the statement as direct and as simple as possible. The more values you bring into your drawing, the harder it is going to be to not only control those values, but to get a strong, simple read of what is in light and what is in shadow. So I'm just going through, like all of this is in shadow, for example, apart from some of this foot is going to be in light there, but right. Just going in, and this process is called shadow mapping. And I'm literally doing just that. I'm mapping all the shadows. When you're in doubt, squint. Squinting, because there's a lot of secondary tones and that type of thing going on. Squinting's the great equalizer of kind of getting rid of the confusion and the muddiness. And you sometimes have to make some hard decisions about, okay, it's hard to say whether that's in light or in shadow, but I'm going to make a call that that particular thing is in shadow or in light. Because, halftones can be a subtle thing. Okay, so now I'm literally going to go in. And I'm going to, basically I'm going to block in with a single tone everything that's in shadow. Yes, some things are actually darker than I'm representing them. Doesn't matter. Simple statements. What is in light, what is in shadow? And that's a mantra you've just got to repeat to yourself over and over and over again. What's in light, what's in shadow? Don't be hypnotized by all the halftones, because inevitably they don't read well. If you try and be too faithful to them, you're going to end up with noise. Right? All I've done there is simple. What's in light, what's in shadow. Now we can go in and we can start thinking about the fact that we've got some halftones that we might want to express in a more subtle way. But what's in light, what's in shadow? Now I'm going to just go in and hit with a little bit of blending, and now I can get some halftones from the material that's already on the page. I'll get some material that I can push into the halftones on the lit side of the form. I'll show you what I mean in a sec. So I might want to like pull in here, for example, right? Working around the form, working in the direction the forms are moving in, not to do any curves this way. I'll kill the illusion of things moving back in space. All right? Soften some of these edges so not everything has the same, you know, amount of intensity in the turn of the form. It's really down to personal taste, I guess, how far you want to take this and how much you want to push, but that's the large idea. The lightest shadow is darker than the darker shadow. The term that I think you're looking for, Hemant, is the lightest shadow in the shadow side of the form is darker than the darkest shadow in the lit side of the form. Does that make sense? Let me repeat that. The darkest or the lightest shadow in the shaded or in the shadow side of the form is darker than the lightest or the darkest shadow in the lit side of the form. I butchered that. I just completely confused you, but hopefully you know what I'm saying. Because you don't want it comes back down to this thing of how we want things to read well, right? And so you really, like, there's a lot more halftone going on in this piece of reference that we have here than I'm expressing in my drawing. But trust me when I say that if you represent all the different halftones that you see, you're going to end up with a mess. It takes a long time, and trust me, you'll need to make that mistake a lot, and you'll keep making it, and you'll know, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, and you'll continue to make that mistake. It's part of the process. I don't know why we do this, but this is human nature. Part of the learning process. All right, 30-minute drawing. Richard, can you do a quick value demo on a simple shape? I certainly can, Rick, of course, be happy to. Mario says, nothing on the light side is as dark as anything on the shadow side. Exactly. Now, you know, you could use this as your first pass, and you could start to go in now, just in the interest of just taking this discussion just one step further. I could start to say now, okay, well, actually, this down here, I could start to put halftones, you know, kind of into the shadow side of the form. It's like, okay, I've got some, you know, I could start to add secondary shadows and secondary ideas, start pushing things. Okay, this is a little bit darker in here than, you know, that's a little bit darker. This wrist here is a bit darker. then the leg in front of it. So we could go to another level of subtlety now, and we could start building up using this as our kind of our base point. We could start to now explore. You know, there's cast shadow in here that's a little bit darker, and we could start to massage. But you can only do that, in my opinion, on a solid foundation of what's in light, what's in shadow. Second shadow seems to be a strong instrument. Second shadow is the second shadow pass is really where you can elevate things to the next level. It's also the one that requires the most dynamic control of the light and shadow pass. You know, that first pass, what's in light, what's in shadow, we can all kind of conceptually get our heads around that. The second one, it's why I'm not getting into it too deeply here. But it's the one where you can really start to, overdo it, right? It's the same thing with, you know, we could start, technically, if we were working on tone paper, we could start pulling out highlights, right, in the lit side of the form. Once again, if you don't really know how to control that stuff, you're going to end up just with little bits of white on your drawing, which are just going to be really distracting, right? Let me do a really quick demo here, just to get our point across again. Let's say we have a cylinder. Most people do this demo with an egg or with a ball. I use a cylinder purely because it's quicker, in my opinion. Okay, so there I've got my form, like we were talking about. I've got my diagrammatical drawing going in. I'm going to say that my light source is coming from this direction, something like that. So I want to get my core shadow, and my core shadow is going to be running about there, right? Coming down like that. I'm also going to have a cast shadow, which is the shadow coming off the object or the volume, and that's going to be coming in this direction, something like that, right? The cast shadow. Okay, well, hold on, let me not get ahead of myself here. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this in with tone. Now, I might have a half tone in the lit side of the form, right? As this form turns around in space, this is probably right here. This ribbon right here is probably where if there was a highlight, that's where that would be. Then we got our core shadow here, going into the shadow side, or what I like to think of as the reflected light side of the form, right? And then coming into the cast shadow down here. This is essentially the principle, right? This is the idea. The cast shadow will always be darker than the shadow side or the reflected light. Because if you think about it, right, light photons are coming down, they're hitting this surface here, and they're bouncing back in this direction, and they're actually lighting the shadow side of the form. That's why this core shadow right here, which is actually closer to the lit side of the form, that's why this core shadow is the darkest part of the shadow side of the form, right? Because this is where there's the least amount of light. This region in here is getting all the bounce light. This area right here isn't, or not to the same degree, right? So that's, in its simplest form, that is the key idea with light and tone, right? And what we call conceptual light, right? Where we're using an imaginary light source, which, as you've heard me say many times, Michelangelo did all the time. A lot of the Renaissance guys used conceptual light because they simply didn't have they didn't have electricity, right? So they wouldn't rely on candlelight or the sun, which is constantly moving. They'd use this conceptual light idea. Now, let's assume that we all understand this as a concept. There is something else I think that's worth talking about. When you're lighting in this way, and if we look at our model, you'll notice that this core shadow about here, right? That's about 70-30, right? If we were to divide it in the scale. Now, 60-40 is going to work great too. What doesn't work well, in my opinion, well, not just in my opinion, just as a general rule, is 50-50. If our core shadow was here, right, and then this was all in reflected light, cast shadow, etc. 50-50, as you can see, it feels very stiff, doesn't it? You want, and you don't tend to see this in nature. You will see this, you'll see 60-40. The other thing that you'll see often is rim light, which is very good for drama, right? Which is generally, you'll have your core shadow here, you'll have all of this, you know, all of this will be in tone, and we've got a lit side. This might be like 10-90, right? That will work really well. What doesn't work well is 90-10, all of this being lit and just this being in shadow. So this good, this good, this bad, this bad. Right? 50-50 makes it look like the whole area is flat somehow. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Now, here's an interesting thing. Ishan says he loves painting reflected light. That's awesome. Good. But let me just talk about that just real quickly. There is, you could, then the next question could be, how dark should this be as opposed to this? Well, depending, and you can go back and you can look historically, right? Like, and we've talked about it before on the stream. Painters that would draw a lot of, like, you know, angels in clouds, they would have a very, very light core shadow. You might have this almost nothing in tonal, right? Could be really, really, really light, like that. Or it could be really, it could obviously be really dark as well. But, you know, there could be an awful lot of reflected light going back in this area, in which case, you know, this shadow side of the form is going to be really light, but not everywhere. Maybe as you come down here, because the form is turning again, maybe this shadow side would get a bit darker, right? So you might have something going on like that. But keep in mind that what you're seeing here is reflected light, right? We talk about it in terms of it's the shadow side of the form, and technically I guess it is, but there's a lot of light in that reflected side of the form. So, you know, you can really get some lovely effects. Like sometimes I'll draw in my core shadows and put no tone in the shadow side, and it actually kind of works. Sometimes it can work very nicely. Michelangelo used to do it beautifully. Frazetta mostly uses strong darks. It's a stylistic choice, right? Sure, and you make a very strong statement. It sounds right. I haven't, without having Frazetta paintings in front of me. It's been a while since I've looked at his work, but yeah, I'm sure he had very dark shadows because it's striking. But I bet you'll find a lot of reflected light in there too. But it's an interesting observation. Look at your favorite artists. Look how much reflected light they use. Oh boy, we got a challenge with this next drawing. We're at 6 o'clock, so we're just at the hour mark. All right, I'm going to move to... But the biggest and the biggest piece of advice I can give you about light and tone is to keep it simple. The biggest mistake I see, especially people starting out in their journey or still trying to figure it out, the biggest mistake I see people use is they add too many values. And also, oh yeah, there's one other thing I didn't mention, which is certainly worth mentioning. Let me just come back to this. There's a rule of thumb here, just very quickly. Let's say we got the 70-30 principle. Show the detail in this side of the form and don't show the detail in the shadow side of the form. What I mean by that is don't, if there's any anatomy to show off, show it off in the lit side of the form, right? Here I would probably show it off in the tonal side of the form, just because I've got so much more real estate, right? We're not doing these, so it doesn't really matter, but pick a side to show detail. If you show equal amount of detail in both the shadow and the lit side of the form, the eye simply won't know where to look, right? And just one other thing, generally, and this is not a hard and fast rule, but it's a good thing to keep in your mind, in the back of your mind, is give the eye an escape route through the lit side of the form. What do I mean by that? Just coming back here real quick. The eye has the ability in this particular case to travel all the way through the lit side of the form, right? Now let's just say, for example, there was a reason to put let's say there was a shadow coming off something, for example, that put a piece of tone right across here. The eye would stop when it hits the shadow, right? And then the eye would have to start back up. Or maybe, for example, you've drawn a knee, and you put it all in tone. So the eye's traveling up the form, and then it kind of will hit it like a break, right? So generally speaking, try and give the eye an escape route through the form on the lit side of the form, where possible. How is Penny? Penny's awesome, thanks, Simon. She was here. Oh, I don't know where she's gone. That is not a good sign. But no, she's doing great, thanks. And she's usually good as gold, but you know how these things go. She is a puppy after all. Penny is dreadful. Yeah, what was that from? Penny Dreadful. Oh, that does ring a bell. But I'm forgetting what. Contrast of detail works with color temperature also. Well, getting into color temperature is obviously a huge subject in its own right. It's something that we're not really equipped to talk about here because we can't deal with it. Other than to say, once again, yes, shadows are generally cooler, right? Lit sides are generally warmer, generally speaking. But once again, keep those statements simple, in my opinion. Richard, in your previous drawing, how would you handle a cast shadow that partially covers that partially covers half the figure, as if she was sitting under an umbrella partially shaded? Good question. Generally speaking, I would put it in the same tonal range as what's in the shadow side of the form. Strong statement, what's in light, what's in shadow, right? That's the way I would go. But it's a good, that is one of the exceptions to the rule, if you know what I mean. But generally what you're going to find is then in that case, you probably were going to push what's in the shadow side down in a tonal range as well. But I would start with the cast shadow in the same tonal range as what's in the shadow side. Almost think of it like poster art, right? If you were, you've only been given, you know, three tones to work with, you know, like black, gray, and white. Okay, well I only have gray, so I'm going to use that value, right? That's what I would do. Did you think about the World Workshop Tour? Honestly, Hemant, I think I need someone to arrange the World Workshop Tour, and and then I'll show up. But there's so many moving parts with doing that right now. Let's see, maybe down the line. I just don't have the bandwidth. Oh, a room tour. I thought you meant like what? Well, a World Workshop Tour. No, I didn't read you wrong. A room tour. Well, the problem with doing a room tour is I can't really move my cameras. They're stationary. You know what I'll probably do at some point is I'll just go around with my phone at some point and I'll do a little shorts video and I'll pop it up on YouTube and you can check it out if you're interested. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to... A TV show with Ava Green, Penny Dreadful. Okay, yeah, no, that does absolutely ring a bell. Although I don't think I've seen it. Okay, we got a challenging pose ahead of us, guys. I can only put it off for so long by answering questions. At some point, the rubber needs to hit the road, right? All right, let's do it. There's some large rhythmical ideas here, which I think are worth kind of finding sooner rather than later. The back coming up to this shoulder, head of the humerus, and this arm coming down this way. Then we've got this lovely kind of rhythmical idea here. Iliac crest is about here at this turning point. Yeah, iliac crest coming down and brings us nicely into this leg. And then this leg is going back this way. Ankle about there, and then this foot coming down this way. All right, so we know everything will pretty much fit. Oh, okay. Then we've got the rib cage. Arch of the rib cage is kind of coming down this way. And this knee is sitting about here. We've got the scapula. We can see the ridge of the scapula sitting up here, so it's a great like locking point, so to speak. Just very loosely blocking right now. So, yeah, it's a complex pose. I'm sure we're going to be pushing and pulling a little bit. Got the pectoral coming down, and obviously the mass of this, the breast sitting in here. Got the navel out here. Okay. First pass. Pose is odd. Looks like her shoulder is dislocated. Well, Lulu, it's really that she's she's throwing it forward, right? That's really what we want to. Yeah, I think it's. I'm not saying my drawing it works, but I think it kind of works. Well, what's nice is it gives us this rhythm that's pushing this stuff forward. I'm going to come back to that because there is typically with poses like this, we've got several stages of refinement required. We've got gluteus medius sitting in here. And here we have we're going to be using light and tone to help describe form on this one, I think, I also think that I'm getting thrown off with the perspective. The legs are quite a bit bigger than the upper torso, and I'm going to have to account for that. It's just one of those very typical kind of, one of those lovely puzzles that we have to kind of You have to figure out. Excuse me. So yeah, I think I'm going to be massaging the volumes of these things a little bit as I go. Yeah, it's a good challenge. I'm actually going to hold off on this just for now. I want to get this locked. Then I can work through here with a little bit more confidence. What do you think about using the master's figure paintings to draw anatomy and learn light? Painters like Bouguereau, Jean-Blanc. Yeah, okay, so you've mentioned two painters there, Koan, that, look, they're both excellent at their craft, fantastic. Obviously, they were high level. That is also, though, that both of those painters, I think, would be exponents of the academic system. And it's a very, even though the principles and the rules, let's say, are essentially the same as the system that I draw, their approach is very different. So, but yeah, look, there's value, absolutely there's value, especially if you're going to learn from people like that. Be careful. Drawing action lines just makes the pose easier to draw. Yes and no, Ishan. I agree with you 9 times out of 10. And we've got some lines of action here, but generally, as a rule that I'm prepared to break, obviously, or massage to fit my needs, when we have a foreshortened pose like this, I tend to try and find my volumes in relationship to each other, kind of like a series of stacked boxes moving away in space. And then I find lines of action within that. Whereas normally I would try and find the lines of action at the beginning of the drawing, right? Do you have any fave musicians or singers? Oh yeah, plenty. I like Ray. Ray who? Gotta be more specific. Ray Charles? It's the only Ray I can think of off the top of my head. Classes in London. No classes in London right now. I used to do classes in London, Yannicka, all the time. And I haven't done classes in London since probably about 2018. It's one of these things of just trying the logistics and the moving parts to having an ongoing class in London was an absolute nightmare, to be honest. Just the rent for the room alone was kind of staggering. You know, and then because central London, and then on top of that, like every 6 weeks, you're basically having to try and fill the class again. And it's an ongoing kind of challenge to do that. And it was just to reach what, 20 people per class? I've got far more reach online, if that makes sense. So it's not that I'm opposed to doing them, but to be honest with you, at this point in the game, if I'm to teach an in-person class, it has to some degree or another need to be handed to me on a plate, i.e. it needs to be organized by someone else. It's hard to get across just how much work it is to put classes on. And I do enjoy teaching in person. I actually just did I say I don't teach in person. I do teach in person periodically, but it's usually set up by studios or companies that want me to come in and do a class, like a one-off, or a few sessions. They come in once a week or something like that. I do those, but this is a case where they have the facility and I just need to literally show up with my easel and draw. The back of her left thigh is really short. Yeah, there's a lot of foreshortening going on there, and it's a tricky one, for sure. What age did you pick up charcoal? I don't know, I've been playing on and off with charcoal for years. I wouldn't say I got serious with charcoal till probably about 10 years ago. Where I started using it as a kind of like a main, medium. But yeah, I've been using it a while now. So this is where light and tone and the core shadows are really going to hopefully help in our journey to describe form. This is a tough pose. Well, we knew it would be, right? Now the strong cast shadow coming off here, so when we get to the tonal stage we can talk about how we're going to handle that. Bong break. Can we take a bong break? Is that Rick? Okay, Rick says we should take a bong break. Sounds good to me. wonder if there's a way to combine live teaching with online teaching. Just a thought. Oh, sure. I think, you know, that could be a very interesting kind of idea, you know, is to like say do a live class and to have it stream at the same time. It's just a lot of moving parts, right? I think that's the problem with something like that. But yeah, that would be fun. Although, you know, here's the thing that okay, so this actually brings up a very nice point, which I do think is important. And I don't get into this very often because everyone's got their own motivation and their own reasons for drawing and all the rest. And that is that's kind of a very personal thing. The one thing that none of you guys are really, apart from a very few of you, the one thing that we don't do in these streams, which I do in live class, is I'm able to walk the room. So I'm able to see what people are doing. I'm able to sit down at someone's board when they're struggling, to look at the model that they have in front of them and help them problem solve. And we're missing that interaction in this environment. It's why I offer the one-on-one mentorship thing, because that bridges to a large degree. It's not perfect, but that bridges the gap between, or you know, it takes care of the one weakness of working in this format. But you know, that's the trade-off. Because I do think, you know, I've had people ask me many times, you know, like, why do, like the figure drawing fundamentals video and all of that, why do you give all of that stuff away for free? Most people would charge for that stuff. Because for me, honestly, giving the information is only really half the conversation. The development really happens. Especially if you want to develop on a meaningful timeline, then the development happens really in the one-on-one interaction, where you're getting feedback on your drawing, right? Because we could sit here for 20 years, and there might be concepts that you think you're getting that you're never quite grasping, that if I could sit down for 5 minutes and sit in your chair for a minute and just look at your drawing and say, well, you know what, I would do this. It would help you course correct much quicker than you trying to problem solve on your own. Once again, I don't want to make this, you know, about me trying to say, oh, you guys should be doing that. But I do believe that is a huge part of the game, that because of this format, we don't get a chance to do that. So anyway. Ray Charles, says Hemant. I like Ray Charles. I certainly will happily listen to Ray Charles. Wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I'm not a fan, if that makes sense. Like, I like Ray Charles. And I've got a very eclectic mix of music that I like. I think you would be... you might be surprised at some of the things I like, or not. But yeah, Ray Charles is good. My daughter and I got into an elevator at LAX one time. Ray Charles got in with us and with his bodyguard. We were too shy to say a word to him. People greeted him like crazy when we got off. How nice. Stevie Ray Vaughan. There is a couple of Stevie. I've got a playlist I have a couple of tracks of Stevie Ray Vaughan on my playlist, which I absolutely adore. And I listen to them regularly. I could even tell you, if I can, just gonna pull up my real music folder here. I'll tell you which tracks they are. But to be honest with you, they are mellower stuff by Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm not great with the very energetic stuff of Stevie Ray's. Not that I don't appreciate the artistry. I certainly do. I'll tell you the two tracks I love of Stevie Ray's, and they're really mellow tracks, but they're absolutely gorgeous. Is Riviera Paradise is one of them. Where's the other one that's on this? Sorry. Oh, and Tin Pan Alley. Very mellow tracks. I absolutely adore them. One of the reasons I like them, well, not just, obviously there's a lot of reasons to like them, but they are absolutely incredibly well recorded. I think those two tracks, and probably the albums that they come off, some of the best recording of music just ever, I think. The quality of them. So yeah, so I do like those two tracks, but I'm not as keen on the more higher energy stuff. That's not to say I don't like high energy music. I do, but yeah, there you go. Okay, so. Probably be easier to teach in a school or atelier. Yeah, Mario, it would be. And if a school or atelier ever reach out to me, I'd be happy to have that conversation. You know, the only other thing is some of these places require that you have a degree, and I have no degrees. I am I never went to college, so I don't have any of that paperwork. You know, I didn't even finish high school, so it puts you at a disadvantage when you want to teach. Online is best. As I said, Lulu, I think it's certainly for reaching, it's the best. I don't think it's the best. If someone came to me and said, I want to learn and I want to learn fast, I wouldn't. I would say then you need to come to me once a week, or even you need to do something one-on-one, not just following along, you know. You left off the right buttocks. Intentional? No, not intentional. I'm getting to it, Tina. I'm getting to it. Don't you worry. It's come. No, I should have probably. One of the reasons I didn't put it in was because, as I said earlier, I wanted to resolve and lock some of these larger ideas because I was a bit unsure about how much I would need to push and pull things. As it turns out, I think I was in the ballpark for the most part. So just in the interest of, you know, there we go, okay? You're very welcome, Mila. Thank you so much for the kind words. Having a dedicated coach is a massive speed boost in any crafts. Yeah, it is. But look, you know, it's not something that everyone is in a position to do. I do appreciate that. It's why, you know, like, you know, coming along to the live streams, here's what I would say is, if you can't do the mentorship, which most people are not in the position, and I completely get it for a multitude of reasons, but if you want to improve and you're not already a member, don't copy my drawings. Spend the $3 a month or whatever it is, become a member and have the reference in front of you. That much I would say. It's the bare minimum you should do. But if you're following my streams and you're just copying my drawings, then you've even removed yourself even way further away from the learning process. At least having the reference in front of you and seeing how I tackle that or interpret that, you can learn quite a bit from that, I think. But I know some people do follow the stream and they just draw, they literally copy my drawings. And I know because people tag me on Instagram where they've done just that, and I know they're not members of the channel. That I think is actually detrimental. Not detrimental, it's absolutely, it's better than not drawing at all, but that's not really, in my opinion, it's not going to be very beneficial. Let's see here. What streaming service do you prefer, Richard? Not sure what you mean, Margot. Yeah, well, like YouTube, or is that what you mean? Or maybe I'm missing something in that question. Please elaborate. I love this post, so challenging. This is a tough one, right? If Stevie Ray had a value range, it'd be 1991. Yeah, apart from those couple of tracks I was mentioning. You must know them if you're a Stevie Ray fan, Rick. You probably get why they appeal to me, I'm sure. You out? Who's out? Who's gone? Hemant? Is he taking? Take care, Hemant. See you next time, man. Okay, where are we at now? 30 minutes on this one already, but we're making progress, right? I think that's fair to say. Okay, I'm going to hit this with the next stage. Let's see. Now let's find some of these tonal shapes. coarse shadows. You guys know the mantra, what is in light, what is in shadow. Alright, I'm gonna do some colouring in. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Yeah, this is a tough pose, just for sure. I think what we'll do is for the next couple, whatever, I think how many poses do we have left after this one? Let's have a look. Wow, we still got 3 poses. Well, we're simply not going to get to them all. What we're going to do is we're going to do the next pose. Once we're done with this, we'll do the next pose, maybe as like a 5-minute pose, and I think we'll probably call it. I'll leave the last 2 up there for you guys to do in your own time if you'd like. You'll notice that the last pose I put up there is very much this is a last pose type of pose. Could have been fun, but I like the idea of doing this back view too. Anyway, let's finish this up and then we'll wrap up with one last quick pose. Because this one definitely, uses up a lot of the precious mental bandwidth. Then you guys can go and enjoy your July 4th, knowing that you did your homework, you've earned a nice day, relaxing, celebrating. Is it would you consider it a celebration? I guess it is, right? It's more just a day. It's more or less like feels to me like it's a, Thanksgiving, July 4th. We both kind of feel like they have the similar energy. Bit of cast shadow right there. You know, we're lucky with this model that the lighting is what it is, because it's, once again, it just feels like it's a very clear example of, you know, what's in light, what's in shadow. Notice how all of my shadow is in the same tonal range. Oh yeah, there's a lot more going on the model. Maybe here there's a tiny bit more because there's a car shadow coming off that breast, but I can't state enough how important the simple statement is. To get the party started. And we're at 39 minutes on this one. So, you know, for those of you who have the reference in front of you, obviously we can start to see areas that we could start pulling into more, we can pull in more tone. You know, it's darker down here, and, you know, we've got differences in these tonal relationships that we're not really expressing in the drawing. But this is by far the most important statement to make, this initial statement. Could even pull out, you know, could even just go in with my finger here, just very, very slightly, and just pull out a little bit of tone, just like that. And that helps now make the others feel darker. That's a little pocket of reflected light, right, hitting right there. Could do the same even here, like, could start to push and pull without actually adding any more material, just by saying, okay, I want that region there a little bit lighter, for example. Right? See how you get like almost like a feeling like a glow in an area like this, just by lifting out a little bit of charcoal. This is where charcoal, in my opinion, reigns supreme. Because you just can't, you don't have that level of flexibility with graphite. Have any of you guys been watching that show, The Boys? That's a lot of fun. Myself and my wife, we've actually finished it now. We're kind of caught up, but we found out about it fairly recently, and we burnt through the 4 seasons of it. But that's a crazy conceptual show. That is really a lot of fun. Not for everyone, but definitely good laugh. All right. The Boys are so good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Now, sorry, I'm going to have to once again apologize ahead of time. Yezg? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Yezg? What kind of paper am I using? This is just, it's just newsprint. Really thin. It's like only 48 GSM, I think, this stuff. It's just newsprint, smooth newsprint. And for me, it's just my preferred paper. Where can you catch The Boys? Amazon Prime has it right now, at least here in the UK. I would imagine you'd get it on Amazon. over there. All right, that was a fun pose. A challenge, right? Real challenge. There's a reason it took us over 40 minutes. Okay, sorry, I'm probably, you're saying it's okay means I probably have just butchered the pronunciation of your name. Please feel free to give it to me phonetically or not worry, but I do feel bad when I butcher people's names, which, as many of you know, I'm really good at. Guys, last pose. As I said, I'll leave the last two for you to do in your own time, but we're going to do a quick 5-minute pose just to tie a lovely bow around this July 4th session. And do you have any experience, tips, drawing and rendering poses from imagination? Absolutely, yes. All that we do here is about essentially drawing from our imagination. What we're trying to do with figure drawing and drawing from reference, whichever it might be, your source, like live model, whatever it is, we're trying to build vocabulary, right? We're trying, because the drawing's a language. So we're learning sentence structure and vocabulary and how to put words together, right? In a sense. Once you've got a strong vocabulary, drawing from your imagination is an extension of that, right? Just in the same way me talking, every word that comes out of my mouth is essentially improvisation, right? And you want to develop that same skill set with drawing. That's the idea, right? Okay, Mila, thank you so much for the support. It's really genuinely appreciated. And MJ, welcome. We got a new member. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to hit the clock. 5 minutes, guys. We're not messing around anymore. You know the drill. So for those of you who don't have the reference, this is a back pose. And I generally like to find the overall, you know, we talked about line of action and that's what we're doing here, right? We're essentially finding our long rhythmical lines to start with. Nice. You can see the compression of the scapula sitting there. This arm, something like that. She's holding a stick, which is actually coming all the way down here, and it's completely obscured by her left leg, which you'd be forgiven for not knowing was there if you didn't know. But I only know because I saw it in other poses. When I was picking out the poses for today, I actually got a number of good poses that we obviously haven't used today for this model. So we will, in time, we will revisit, I'm sure, and you know, we'll do more of this one because she's great. Fun poses. as I get quite a bit quieter when we're doing these faster poses. They do require your undivided attention. Can you explain the purpose of gesture drawing, Richard? I always feel like I'm wasting my time unless I'm trying to create a final image. You're not wasting your time, in my opinion, Eddie, at all. Gesture drawing is it's in many ways, regardless of whether I'm doing a 40-minute pose or a 5-minute pose. The gestural stage of the drawing is kind of like the first stage of development, and equally important on a long pose as a short pose. You're using gesture to find the poetic form of the drawing. You could consider it to be the heart of the drawing, if that makes sense. Good gesture is poetic form, in my opinion, and it is the heart of the drawing. So if you can, it's generally where the life of the drawing lives. And good gesture, it brings the drawing to life. It brings vitality, brings energy. And in my opinion, it's the first stage of the drawing, unless, as I've talked about before, there are exceptions. Like, in my opinion, I shift gears when doing, I'm already at 6 minutes. When I'm doing longer pose or foreshortened poses, I tend to shift my priority about where gesture sits in that process. In a fast pose like this, especially a standing pose that has long lines of action, let's say, finding those gestural rhythmical ideas up front gives me a frame, a foundation, a framework for it to sit, for the rest of your drawing to sit on top of. Gesture first, then the diagrammatical stage, then the tonal stage. I work very much and very specifically with these stages in mind, right? And I try and be conscious of when I'm leaving one stage and entering the next stage. And I generally try to avoid jumping into, the next stage before I'm finished with a stage, right? So now I'm starting to think about tone, right? I'm putting in some core shadows here just to just give this drawing a little bit of something. But I wouldn't do this at the earliest stage of the drawing. At least for me, there's a time and a place in the process to hit each one of these ideas. So even just knocking in the core shadows there really helps describe form, in my opinion. So no, please don't, you're not wasting your time. As I said though, we're in a weird kind of dilemma, because gesture is the first stage of the drawing. In my opinion, in some ways, the most important stage of the drawing. It's also the one that's the hardest to do. Just in the same way that, you know, writing good poetry is harder than writing, you know, basic grammar, right? It's the most refined, in my opinion, it takes the most refined set of skills to do well. And it's the hardest to learn, but it's also the first stage of the drawing. So we are in a kind of a weird pickle with that, if that makes sense. But please look at gesture as an art form in its own right. So when we do these quick poses, 3-5 minute poses, forget the 2s, the 1s and the 30s, forget those are nonsense for most people. But when we're doing these 5-minute poses, we're practicing those gestural skills, and it can be a gesture drawing, it can be a drawing in its own right? As a standalone piece, this is a gesture drawing, but it's also the foundation for your bigger statement, potentially. I also tend, and this is a much bigger conversation for another day, I tend to slightly adjust my approach to gesture for a 40-minute drawing as I do for a 5-minute drawing. With the 5-minute drawing, just to, not to leave you hanging, with a 5-minute drawing I just tend to be a lot more direct, whereas when I'm doing a longer pose and I'm thinking gestural in the beginning, I tend to be a little bit more abstract with it, because I want to give it time to mature and fill out as I'm exploring ideas. Because generally speaking, if I'm spending 40 minutes on a drawing, there's a very good chance it's a more complex pose than the 5-minute pose. Not that they're mutually exclusive, but generally speaking. So I tend to shift gears in my approach to gesture slightly, but only in really what I put down on the page, not in my observation of how I want to present things, if that makes sense. Okay. Done well, gesture defines dynamic movement in a drawing. You could not have said it better. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Guys, that was a great session. I agree with you, Rick. In no small part, to be honest with you, to me having that little bit of extra time between sessions, I think it's going to be a positive thing moving forward. I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about the sessions and moving forward. And guys, thank you so much for being here, for joining me. As I always say, this stream is nothing without you guys, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys make it. So thank you for joining me on this wonderful journey. And with that said, we've got the weekend around the corner. You guys in the States, you have your July 4th. Wonderful. Have a fantastic day for all of you Americans, and for the rest of you too. Have a fantastic day, whatever you might be doing, wherever you might be, and have a fantastic weekend. I will see you guys next week, next Thursday, same place, you know the drill. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button or the dislike button on your way out, it'd be much appreciated. And I will see you next Thursday. And I've got lots of other little schemes going on in the background, which I'm hopefully going to be able to roll out in the coming weeks as things, you know, find themselves. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Take care. I'll see you next week. Cheers.